What's up guys, and welcome to a new video. So today we're going to cover the HOTA Barbarian. This is actually an extremely strong build, definitely an S tier build. If you enjoy playing with Barbarian builds, this is definitely one you should try out. Walks through everything in the game, handles Nightmare 100 dungeons with ease, one-shots all bosses. I mean, I've seen ticks of damage with this build upwards of 300 million, close to 350 million. So that's enough to even one-shot the world bosses. Definitely a fun playstyle, doesn't have any resource problems. You just run around and just smash everything down with ease. And then I tried to make this build with not only a high damage, but as much defense as possible. How I have it set up, we have over 11k armor just sitting in town, so that's pretty nice. In this guide we will cover everything from A to Z, so feel free to go jump ahead at any time. Timestamps will be down below. There will be more gameplay at the end if you want to go ahead and check that out. Hopefully this build ends up being helpful for you guys, and if it is, don't forget to like and sub. I'd really appreciate it. Helps the channel grow and helps me, catch the algorithm. Anyways, let's jump right into it. We'll briefly go over the skills used in the build. For our main damage dealer, obviously we're using Hammer of the Ancients. Nice AoE, does tons of damage. We're using Challenging Shout. You can see right there it taunts enemies. Then it also, while the shout's active, we get bonus maximum life, and then we get Fury when we take damage. We use Iron Skin, basically for more defense overall. We use Rallying Cry, makes us unstoppable, grants us more Fortify, movement speed, resource regen. We take War Cry. War Cry grants us Berserking, which while we're Berserking, you can see the stats for it right down there on the bottom. And then, it gives us 15% maximum life as Fortify also. Really nice to have. And then War Cry itself increases our damage also. And then we also have Wrath of the Berserker. This is our ultimate skill, gives us basically a ton of damage, berserking, and then our damage even stacks while we're using this. So, as for the expertise, we're going to go with the two-handed axe expertise for more multiplicative damage against vulnerable enemies. For Vampiric Powers, up top we're going to take Sanguine Brace, basically boosting up our Fortify when we kill enemies. We're going to take Prey on the Weak for more multiplicative vulnerable damage against vulnerable enemies. Next up right here, we're going to take Metamorphosis. Basically, this is going to go along well with the build. It makes us unstoppable, and because of our unique pants, gives us more damage and 50 resource when we cast it. We're going to take Resilience. Right here, you gain damage reduction for every 2% of life that you're missing. You get 1%. This is pretty big when you go down in life in those high nightmare dungeons to make it to where you're not taking as much damage. And then we're going to take Blood Boil. This is one of our 4 ways to have, overpowers for sure. You can see right there, all we're really worried about is every 20 seconds your next skill is guaranteed to overpower. So that's just one way that we overpower for sure. We'll go ahead and cover the gear and aspects used in the build now. Up top for the helmet. Alright guys, when it comes to all the gear, you want to try to get 925 item power so you get as much armor on your gear as possible, first and foremost. Secondly, before we get into the gear, you want to try to cap off all your resistances. This is really important anywhere in the game, especially like high nightmare dungeons or the new event that's going to be coming up. You definitely want to have the resistances all capped off, and then armor is very important. As you can see right here, we have 11k armor. That's actually quite a bit. With our disobedience that we have right here aspect, this jumps us up to I want to say close to 17k armor, so that's just awesome. If you don't have enough armor in the high dungeons, you're just going to get one-shotted all over the place, so you definitely want to have as high armor as possible. Back into the helmet though, up top. Now you want to get total percent armor, like I have on the top stat right there, anywhere you can. So you definitely want to get it right here on your helmet. I would say get, whatever resistances you need on your helmet, and then get maximum Fury. With this build, Fury goes into damage, so we want to have Fury pretty much any spot that we can get it. For the aspect on here, we're going to use the Iron Blood aspect. You can see gain 4% damage reduction for each nearby bleeding enemy, up to 20%. And, as you'll see in a minute, with this build, we make everything bleed because of choices in the Paragon, choices in the skill tree, and because of a aspect that we have down below. For the armor, you're going to want to get the aspect of Disobedience, one of the best defensive aspects in the game. Gives us a ton of armor overall. On your armor, now, you want to go for stats similar to what I have right here. You definitely want to have the percent total armor. You want to have the damage reduction. Now, you see right there up top, though, I have the 6.6% damage. Ideally, this armor would be perfect if that was either more damage reduction or if that was maximum life. I'd like to go for maximum life right there. But This is the armor that I have, and this is, you know, pretty good, and it's a 925. So, oh, in your armor, guys, you want to go with rubies for maximum life, by the way. On your gloves, you definitely want to get 4 rings to Hammer of the Ancients. That's, you know, something you have to have. We have a crit every other second hit with this build, so you don't really have to have that crit chance. Strength is obviously really good, you know, with this build. Strength, we try to stack it because it gives us armor, as you can see right here. You know, strength gives us armor and maximum damage. So strength for this build is just awesome. You want to get it anywhere that you can, and we actually have quite a bit. We have 1300 strength. And then also you want to try to get the overpower damage. Instead of the critical strike, you could have something else right there if you wanted to. You know, the crit strike chance isn't bad. I guess on every other hit, you're, you know, higher chance of crit striking, but you don't have to have that. And then for the aspect on that, you want to go with the Ancestral Force aspect. Hammer of the Ancients quakes outward, and its damage is increased by 15% multiplicative. So basically it does like a AoE around you, so you definitely want to have that aspect on your gloves. For the pants, now these are kind of important. We want to go with Tibalt's Will on these. They have pretty good overall stats. They give us, you know, resource damage, damage reduction, but you see right there, you deal 40% multiplicative increased damage while unstoppable. Because of our vampiric power, you know, we're constantly going unstoppable, so we're getting that damage boost. And then anytime that we use Metamorphosis, our vampiric power, when you become unstoppable, gain 50 of your primary resource, and that's boosted up by, you know, all of our resource generation that we have everywhere else. So we get a huge amount of resource every time that we go unstoppable. So basically every time we evade, we're getting a lot of damage and resource back. Down here into the boots, guys, you want to get movement speed for sure. As much movement speed as possible. You always want to get movement speed if you can. Anywhere that you can. Get whatever resistances you need. You can see right there I have cold, lightning, and poison. Helps me cap off all my resistances. So get those on your boots. For the aspect right there, you can see I have the relentless aspect. Relentless Berserker. Damaging an enemy with a core skill has up to a 40% chance to extend the duration of berserking by 2 seconds. We want to try to keep berserking up with this build as much as possible. It's not like the Upheaval build that I have, where, you know, every time that we hit 2 or more enemies, we go berserking. I mean, we have ways of berserking with this build, which obviously we'll go over, but we want to have that extended duration for sure. Down into the weapon. Now, you want to get yourself a 925 weapon, two-handed mace just like this. You know, it's highest damage that you can possibly get. And then you also want to get the strength, the all stats, the overpower damage, and the damage while berserking. Damage while berserking is very important because in our Paragon board, that's going to give us overall more multiplicative damage when we stack that. So we want to get that anywhere that we can. Basically, these 4 stats that I have on my weapon right here are exactly what you want to have. Those are the perfect stats. And you want to get those across the board on all your weapons. You know, I have the Grandfather, which we'll go into in a second, but if you didn't have that, you want to get those stats right there all the way across the board. On these 2 and over here, ideally, those will be the best stats. On your two-handed mace, though, you want to get the aspect of, or the Edgemaster's aspect. Skills deal up to 40% multiplicative increased damage based on your available primary resource. Huge damage boost. And then in your weapons, guys, you also want to put the rubies for overpower damage. This one right here, guys, like I said, actually this has perfect stats on it also. You want to get those exact stats, like we talked about. Limitless Rage aspect on here. Each point of fury you generate while at maximum fury grants your next core skill 2% increased damage up to 30%. So basically we're always boosting ourselves over on fury, and especially like at bosses and stuff, so that gives us a nice multiplicative boost to our damage. So we definitely want to have that. In the second one, now I put this aspect on here. Obviously, by the way, you want to go with the same stats like we talked about on this and over here. It's all stats: strength, overpower, and damage while berserking. You can see right there, instead of the critical strike damage, I would rather have the maximum strength. Back into the aspect though, you want to go with the Bloodsucker aspect. You can see right there, whenever you deal direct damage while berserking, inflict 28% of the base damage dealt as additional bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Now this is really important. This is going to help us keep our aspect of disobedience up here up. It's ticking on all enemies for 5 seconds at all times, and you know, that's just boosting, so we have like maximum stacks of disobedience and keeping our defenses up at all times in those higher dungeons or like in the upcoming event. And then also, it's making enemies around us bleed, so we're getting 20% damage reduction. That's how this comes into effect. Now we also take bleed damage in the skill tree, which we'll go over. So basically with this aspect down here and in the skill tree, everything around us is bleeding at all times if it's alive past, you know, 1 shot or we didn't hit it yet. So now up into the amulet, this is going to be our second way to overpower right here, guys. You want to get the Banished Lord's Talisman. Has good stats, obviously: critical strike, overpower, resource. generation, ranks to all core skills. You see right there though, after you spend 300 of your primary resource, your next core skill is guaranteed to overpower, and your critical strikes that overpower deal 120% multiplicative increased damage. In just a second, you'll see because of our Red Furor ring, we're every other hit, pretty much we're crit striking like guaranteed. So that paired up with this, with the guaranteed overpowers and that huge damage boost with critical strike overpowers, is how we produce those big, massive hits of like over 300 million damage. In your jewelry, guys, get the skulls for maximum armor. Unless you don't have your resistances capped out, then you want to get whatever you're missing right there for resistances. But if you do have your resistances capped out, get skulls so you get that maximum armor. And that's part of the reason that we're up to 11k armor as well. For your regular ring right here in this slot, you want to try to get the overpower damage, damage while bleeding, maximum fury, and the resource regeneration. Those are actually the 4 stats that I have. So this is ultimately like a perfect ring. You want to obviously get as high rolls as possible with those stats. And then for the aspect on here, you want to go with the unrelenting fury aspect. This helps to keep our fury like capped off. Killing an enemy or hitting a boss with a core skill refunds up to 30% of its base fury cost. So this is just helping to ramp our fury up like at all times. Now into this ring. If you don't have this ring yet, you can get this ring off Varshan, the Ring of Red Furor. Drops all the time like candy. You can get it in dungeons. You can get it at the blood events. It just drops everywhere. I've gotten tons of them already. If you don't have this ring, you want to go for similar stats on here with a damage aspect, or you could go with like Bold Chieftain aspect. If you do have this ring though, which you want to, eventually you want to try to get this farm Varshan till you get it or whatever. You can see right there has great stats for the build, strength, attack speed, maximum fury, resource regen. But also you see right there, after spending 100 fury within 3 seconds, your next cast of Hammer of the Ancients, Upheaval, or Death Blow is guaranteed to critically strike, dealing 26% up to 30 multiplicative bonus critical strike damage. So basically with the Hammer of the Ancients, you can see down here, it costs 70 fury to cast. So you just want to, you always want to be running around and hitting twice. You know what I mean? You want to slam, slam. That way you're spending that 100 fury, so your next slam is going to be a guaranteed crit strike. So try to always slam in like 2-hit successions. You have to spin that within 3 seconds, so it kind of has to be one after another. But that's a way to guarantee crit strike like every other hit. And then into our other two-handed slashing weapon. Now I have the Grandfather. Obviously it's great for the build, gives us everything good. All stats, damage, maximum life. Try to get this eventually. This is the only uber unique that I have that I've found so far off Duriel. Definitely helps the build out quite a bit. If you don't have this though, get yourself a two-handed axe. Has the good implicit on it for, I'm pretty sure, damage while healthy. And then you want to go with the same exact stats as over here. All stats, strength, overpower, and damage while berserking. For the skill tree, starting up top right here, guys, for our basic skill, we're just going to put 2 points into lunging strike, back into enhanced. We don't even use this anymore. You could if you had to for resource regeneration. And if you needed to do that, then, drop Wrath of the Berserker. But I would say as soon as you can, get rid of that. Don't use it anymore and keep Wrath of the Berserker. For our core skill, obviously we're taking Hammer of the Ancients. Just does tons of damage. Kills everything in the game with ease. Take that back into enhanced. And then back into Furious. We want to take Furious because you see right there, Hammer of the Ancients deals 1% multiplicative additional damage for each point of Fury you had when using it. And that's part of the reason that we want to boost our Fury as high as possible. We have like 200 and something Fury. So you want to get your Fury up as high as possible. Next we'll come down here into the defensive skills. We're going to get 3 points into Imposing Presence for maximum life, 3 into Martial Vigor for damage reduction against elites, 1 into Rallying Cry, back into Enhanced Rallying Cry and Strategic Rallying Cry, 1 into Iron Skin, back into Enhanced and to Strategic. Now, as you'll see in a minute, we actually get multiplicative increased damage when we have our Fortify over 50%. And with these going back into Strategic and Strategic over here, it gives us, it's just keeping our Fortify up at all times, which gives us damage reduction, which is huge. And, it keeps our damage higher as well because of something that we'll choose in just a minute. Down to Outburst. Now, we take this only so we can get down here into Tough as Nails. Increase your thorns by 3%. When enemies hit you, they take an additional 10% of your thorns as bleeding damage over 5 seconds. This is another way that we're, making enemies bleed around us at all times, keeping our disobedience stacks up, and also making our aspect go off in our helmet for our damage reduction. Right here, we're going to take Challenging Shout. You're going to want to run that back into Enhanced, And then back into tactical, you get 3 fury each time you take damage while this is up. We're going to get Warcry over here, guys. This is awesome. Increases our damage dealt by multiplicative 15%. You gain berserking when you use this, so that's another way that we berserk. And then also it grants us 15% maximum life as fortify. So back into enhanced, and then also into mighty. Right here we're going to take booming voice. Your shout skills effect durations are increased by 24%, so we're getting like a quarter longer on our shout skills. And then we want to get guttural yell. Your shout skills cause enemies to deal 12% less damage. Nice damage reduction. You want to get 3 points into aggressive resistance. We get 12% more damage reduction while berserking. We're going to come down here into our weapon mastery. You want to get 3 points into pit fighter. You deal 9% increased multiplicative damage to close enemies, and you get 6% distant damage reduction. One into thick skin, so we can get back here into counteroffensive like I was talking about up there. While you have fortify for over 50% of your maximum life, you deal 12% multiplicative increased damage, and our fortify is pretty much capped off at all times. Down here into our ultimate skill, we're going to take Wrath of the Berserker like we talked about. Just gives us, a ton of damage. And then on top of that, we get unstoppable. Great overall. It makes us berserk. Take that back into prime, and then back into supreme. Right here, we're going to get heavy-handed. While using a two-handed weapon, you deal 15% multiplicative increased critical strike damage. Right here, brute force. Your overpowers deal 45% multiplicative increased damage when using a two-handed weapon. That's a huge damage boost. We overpower all the time. That's our main thing with the build. So this is increasing our damage by quite a bit. Now, if you did not have the unique amulet that I have, on your amulet, this is what you'll try to get, because when you have 3 ranks to this on your amulet, you're getting, level 6 on this, and that's 90% increased multiplicative damage to your overpowers. So that's big. Right here, we're going to get wall up. Your skills using bludgeoning weapons deal 15% multiplicative increased damage if the enemy is stunned or vulnerable. And, with our metamorphosis, we're going through enemies and we're making them vulnerable all the time. Down here into our key passive, guys, we're going to come right here. We're going to take Unbridled Rage. Your core skills deal 135% multiplicative increased damage, which is quite the boost, but costs 100% increased fury, which is not a problem, and actually helps to proc our Ring of Red Furor more often. Alright guys, last but not least, we're going to jump into the Paragon board really quick. Before we do though, there will be a link down in the description if you want to check this out on Mobalytics. You can go ahead and do that. I'm just going to briefly go over this, guys. Right here, we're going to come up, get damage to maximum life. Right here, guys, we're going to take Crusher. As you can see, it's, gives us a nice boost to our damage. And then right there for the additional bonus, you see while wielding a mace, you deal 30% multiplicative increase overpower damage. You want to take this down here to Tenacity for maximum life and armor, and there's more life and armor right here. You're going to get Raw Power for damage and strength. Then you're going to get Iron Strength for armor and strength. The next board that we're going to come into is going to be the Bonebreaker board. Now this is another way that we overpower. You can see right there, every 12 seconds, your next skill is a guaranteed overpower. Definitely want to get that. We're going to come up here. We're going to get Inner Strength for damage while fortified and damage while healthy. We're going to come over here. We're going to get Bludgeoner for damage with two-handed bludgeoning weapons and more overpower damage. Over here, we're going to throw in Might. It's going to boost the nodes around it. And then on top of that, you can see for the additional bonus, we get 8% multiplicative. We're going to take Brutality for overpower damage. Get this overpower damage right down here. We're also going to get Vigor for damage reduction while healthy and strength. The next board that we're going to come into is the Decimator board. Each time you make an enemy vulnerable, your damage is increased by 10% multiplicative for 5 seconds. Overpowering a vulnerable enemy grants an additional 10% multiplicative. So that's really nice to have. We want to get that. Now right here, we're going to get the Dominate Glyph. This gives us a ton of overpower damage. And you can see this is going to be our 4th way to get guaranteed overpowers. After not overpowering for 30 seconds, your next attack will overpower. So, with this and our other ways, we have 4 ways total to overpower. So we're just overpowering all the time. And this is a nice boost to our overpower damage. The next board that we're going to come into is going to be the Warbringer board, guys. We're not going to actually take that, but we're going to come into this board. You want to come up to this socket. We're going to throw in Wrath. Real quick, don't forget to get your glyphs to level 15 so you get the bigger radius. And, eventually you definitely want to get them up to 21 for more damage and stuff. But right here, we're going to put Wrath for critical strike damage. You can see right there for the additional bonus, skills that critically strike also generate 3 fury. Down here, we're going to get Condition for, maximum resistances and 10 strength. Over here, we're going to get Core Reserve for maximum fury and maximum life. Take these around it. Want to come up here, we're going to take Hungering Fury for 16 maximum fury and 2 fury on kill. Definitely want to have that. And then it gives us more fury on kill right here and right here, so that helps out to keep our fury topped off at all times. The next board that we're going to come into will be the Carnage board. We're not actually going to take that, but we are going to use this board. We talked about the damage while berserking in the gear section. We want to get this anywhere that we can, because in just a second you'll see overall multiplicatively it's going to stack our damage. So we want to get that everywhere that we can. I'm going to take Enrage for damage while berserking and duration. Get these up here for more duration, and then damage right here. You're going to come down in this glyph socket, you're going to get Ire. Now, this is probably the most important glyph in the build. Gives us more damage while berserking. And then you can see right there for the additional bonus, while berserking you take 10% reduced damage from elites. There's 75 strength and radius. There's a ton of strength, so that's why we choose this board for that. Come down here for Brash, damage reduction, strength. We're going to get Fierce for damage while berserking and strength. Come down here, get Berserk, more damage while berserking, damage to elites. Take this over here. And then the final board that we're going to come into, guys, is going to be the Blood Rage board. Now, the reason we take all that damage while berserking, you can see right there, killing a bleeding enemy has 10% chance to grant berserking. See, now we also get that. We're always killing bleeding enemies because we make all the enemies bleed with our aspect and because of the thorns that we have in our skill tree. So that's awesome. That's another way that we can get berserking. And then on top of that, you can see right there, your damage is increased by 25% multiplicative of your damage while berserking. In our current bonus, we're getting 70% multiplicative damage. So that's a huge boost overall. We definitely want to have that. And then you're going to come down here, you're going to get Enraged for more damage while berserking and get all this around here. That's pretty much it, guys. There will be more gameplay right here at the end if you want to go ahead and check that out. Like I said, this build's super strong, fast, fun, and it'll be good to push the new upcoming Zero event if you wanted to do that. Don't forget to like and sub, guys, if this video has been helpful or if you enjoyed the build. It really helps my channel grow, helps me, get more views and catch the algorithm. Like I said earlier, I'd appreciate it. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys.
I must wait. I need time to do that. I must wait. I must wait. Ready yet. Time to do that.